Devlin, Untamed.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan War, the only true independent daily radio sports show in this country. iOS, the name of our 1 till 4 live show every afternoon on the platform. It's only sport. Talking today, Origin. Was it a red? Of course it was a red. The only question being debated by all league fans is how to deal with an incident like that. Because after 7 minutes, the game was over. It was so disappointing. Unless you're a Queensland fan, you don't really care about it. We were all over this today. Mark Geyer, Origin hero of the Blues from 1991. He brought back the biff. Tony Kemp, part of the Rugby League Hour every Monday on the show, talking about it. Jason Costigan all over it as well. Cory Jane on the Canes versus the Rebels. We had Ross Filippo on the show today. Chiefs versus the Reds. Previewed the NBA Finals, which kick off tomorrow in Boston. That's the Celtics versus the Mavs. And we seriously questioned why so many defections from the all-white squad for the Oceania Nations Cup, and why no football journalist or reporter or writer in this country is prepared to question Darren Bazley about it. And some of the excuses are just so goddamn lame. They've had a long season. Most of these players don't even play. They sit on the bench for their clubs in Europe, and the seasons have finished, Darren. Oh, as well as that, he said, personal or contract situations. What does that mean? You're selected to play for your country. Why don't these guys want to play? All of that debated on the show. Red card of, obviously, the main topic to talk about. We begin it the same way every day, which is tablets in hand. I say, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Oh, yeah. That was a sending off. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Yes, it was a red card. Yes, it was a red card. Last night's Origin match, make no mistake about it, Joseph Sua'ali'i deserved the red. His no-arms hit was an absolute shocker. Reckless, deliberate, dangerous. Don't blame the ref. Don't blame Reece Walsh. The only person here responsible for wrecking that game last night was an idiot called Joseph Sua'ali'i. If anyone thinks a tackle like that still has a place in league and rugby and NFL, whatever, then you're sadly mistaken at best. You're a moron at worst. That was a red card every day in rugby, and it has to be a red card in league. No mitigating factors, none whatsoever. Clearly, Sua'ali'i was out to get Walsh. He lined him up, he flew at him, he made no attempt to use his arms. It was simply an opportunity to smash Walsh, and he took it, and now he's paying the price. For Blues coach Madge Maguire afterwards to try and draw some kind of parallel with Taylor May's hit earlier in the year, well, that's just lame. I don't get how these guys or why these guys try and excuse and act like that. All the excuses are just worthless. Accept it. He did it. And he cost his team the game. And that is the biggest shame. Because us fans, we missed out on what should have been a great contest, which in the end wasn't, because you can't win an Origin with 12 players for 70 minutes. And don't even start with the, this is Origin and the rules are different bollocks. A head-high shot is a head-high shot is a head-high shot. If that's not a red card, then bring back the swinging arm and bring back the shoulder charge. Bring back head-high tackles. There is no place in the game at all for what Sua'ali'i did. And he should know better. If I was Rugby Australia, I'd be looking straight away at how to exit that contract, because if he can't see what he's done wrong, then he can't play rugby. He's simply a hazard waiting to happen. There is no argument. There is no debate. Forget the state against state. It was a red card, mate.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Was it just an accident? I'm not so sure. Headlines, Lachlan, what have we got?
I'll start off with the State of Origin and continue the rugby league theme. Queensland, of course, winning last night 38-10. A dominant win, their biggest ever win in Sydney. Their last biggest ever win was in 1988. 38-22 was the final score. They beat New South Wales, game 3.
1988. Who was the captain back then?
I can tell you. 38-22, as I say, the score in game 3. For New South, the captain was Wayne Pearce.
Junior.
Mm-hmm. And for Queensland, the captain was, for game 1, it was Fatty. Games 2 and 3, the King.
I'm trying to think why I can't remember this. It's because we never got it live. That's why. We actually only got the grand final live in 89. I think we started getting Origin after that. So that's why. If you wanted to watch Origin before that, you waited for a videotape of it to come in from Australia and you watched it a week later.
Gosh. Yeah. But a couple of stats here, courtesy of NRL.com. Historically, after claiming Game 1 in Sydney, the Maroons have gone on to win 7 series and losing just 1. Most recently, in 2022, they won Game 1 in Sydney, went on to win the series. Since Origin became a 3-game series in 1982, the state that has lost the first game has come back to win the series just 10 times out of 41. 31 and 10 they are. And yes, the 38-10 win, the biggest ever win for Queensland in Sydney. Not their biggest ever win of a New South. I think their biggest ever win was in 2015. They beat them like 52-10 or something. It was ridiculous. Some rugby news. Scott Barrett and Cody Taylor have extended their contracts with New Zealand Rugby, signing on through until the end of 2027. The new deals extend both players' existing contracts with NZR, the Crusaders, and their respective unions by 2 years. Qatar is closing in on an £800 million 8-year deal to host the finals of rugby's Nations Championship after being granted exclusive negotiating rights. That figure of £800 million is 1.652 billion New Zealand dollars. All of this, according to the Daily Telegraph in the UK. You can go to the website and have a look. You can go to the Herald and have a look, because the Herald love rehashing articles from other outlets around the world. Obviously, they have some sort of content agreement with these places. Mira Andreeva, an unseeded 17-year-old from Russia. Have you heard of her, Martin? Had you heard of her? Never before. She surprised the second seed, Aryna Sabalenka, in the women's singles draw at the French Tennis Open, becoming the youngest Grand Slam semi-finalist since Martina Hingis at the age of 16 in 1997. Winning in 3 sets, or to go the distance. Other winners at Roland Garros overnight. Alexander Zverev, Martin's favourite player, because he can absolutely say that surname, can't he? Straight sets, Zverev beat Alex de Minaur, so he goes through to the semi-finals. Who will he play? He will play Casper Ruud, who's the 7th seed. In the other semi-final, it will be Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner. Both of these matches overnight, Friday night, Saturday morning. In the women's singles, Andreeva beating Sabalenka, as I say. Italian 12th seed Jasmine Paolini beating Ukrainian 4th seed Elena Rybakina in 3 sets as well. So 2 underdogs winning in the women's quarterfinals in the singles draw. Cricket World Cup. It's a spectacular day for Uganda, who have beaten Papua New Guinea by 3 wickets. Quite a thrilling contest. Tell you what, I mean, it would have actually been rather entertaining. Papua New Guinea set them a target of 78 for the victory. Uganda got there with 10 balls to go, winning by 3 wickets, 78 for 7 they finished up. Earlier today, India thwacking Ireland, dismissed them for 96, then got 97 for 2, with 46 balls to be exact remaining. Australia and Oman playing right now. Australia 164 for 5 through 20 overs, ended up getting a pretty good total. Oman, they are currently 43 for 4. They need 122 runs in 63 balls. Is that going to happen? No. Current run rate 4.53, required run rate 11.6. Well off the pace that is needed. James Maddison will not be included in England's 26-man squad for this year's Euros. He is one of 7 players who will be cut from the squad when the final 26 is announced on Saturday night, Sunday morning, New Zealand time.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Jason Costigan is going to join us around about 3:30 to run through game by game of the NRL round, kicking off tomorrow night. We were speaking to him earlier, and I said, well, just give us a quick one on, was that a red card or not, Costo?
Well, definitely. It was black and white. It was pretty much a stock standard dismissal. I thought Ashley Klein handled it very well, and despite the theatrics of the New South Wales captain, and he's looking after his team, he's looking after his players, looking after his state. I'm not suggesting to you and your audience for a minute that Sua'ali'i went out there to try and knock Walsh out of the game, but it was an illegal play. It went wrong for the code-swapping Roosters winger, and he needed to be sat out of the game. And I thought New South Wales, for the best part, played valiantly with a man short, but he had to go. Simple as that.
Tony Kemp, who joins us every Monday, the Rugby League Hour, and that's put out in podcast form, wherever you find your favourite podcast. We had Gordon Tallis on as our special guest last Monday. Stacey Jones is going to join us this Monday. Kempy, was it a red card?
Oh, 100%, Marty. You know, like, you can't go and give a guy a grade 1 headshot who doesn't play any part in the game any further and expect to be staying out there and playing for your team, you know. So, there's direct contact with the head, and, you know, unfortunately at that level you can't afford to do that, and you pay the price.
Well, what about the commentators who say that, oh no, there is leniency in Origin. You've got to treat the players and the circumstances different because of it is an Origin game?
I agree with that 100%. I think there is a lenience towards a lot of stuff that happens in a game like that, even in a test match. But I think when it's as clear-cut as it was when Joseph Sua'ali'i made contact with Reece Walsh's head, he left no other option but for the referees to send him off. You know, you've got the bunker seeing it, you've got the millions of fans seeing it, and of course every time they replayed it, it just got worse and worse. So, you know, I don't know what Madge Maguire was talking about at the end of the game, saying, you know, I didn't think it was a send-off, it was a clear-cut send-off.
In terms of what it did to the game, it's so difficult then to assess anything about it, isn't it? Because you can't win a game of Origin when you've got 12 players playing 13 for 70-something minutes.
Oh, I considered going to bed, Marty, to be brutally honest.
I think most of us did, yeah.
What it did, and it does do this, it takes away the contest from the contest because you haven't got an equal contest. You're down short, and they showed that, didn't they, in the first half, Queensland, when they scored all those tries down that right edge. So it's unfortunate that happened. You know, I think when you've got such a heavy focus on collision at the moment, you know, you've got to make sure that everything is squeaky clean. And in this instance, I think what was evident last night when it happened was that Maguire didn't really have a plan when he lost Sua'ali'i. And by the time he kicked into it, was straight after half time, but it was too late by then. So, you know, Billy Slater, on the other hand, couldn't have gone any better for him when he loses Reece Walsh. He chucks Fido back there, he scores 3 tries and puts Costo in there, who had an absolute humdinger of a game up against Crichton in that centre position. But other than that, you know, 12 men New South Wales against Queensland's never going to work.
So in the end, it comes down to the personal responsibility of the player. This is entirely Joseph Sua'ali'i's fault, right?
Well, I feel sorry for Joseph. You know, it's his first Origin game. He gets to play 7 minutes and gets sent off. You know, I think the responsibility doesn't just lie with him. I think it lies with the occasion and the people that are setting him up for the occasion to make sure that, you know, he has to go out there and temper his emotions so that he doesn't put himself in position. I reckon, man, if you gave him another, you know, chance to go out there and replay that for 7 minutes, he probably doesn't go in as hard on that tackle on Reece Walsh. And it's a Reece Walsh play, isn't it? He plays that sweeping role and sets his outsides up. Unfortunately for Sua'ali'i, he just got caught out. He got caught short, and Reece Walsh, being the shorter man, paid the heavy price with a shoulder directed at the head.
Devlin.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
The platform.
Mark Geyer. That infamous incident with Wally Lewis, Origin 1991. Well, he acknowledges he made him famous. He's made a career in broadcasting out of it. He was what we used to call a hard man in rugby league. But the game has changed. Times have changed. We've all moved on, haven't we? There was a red card every day in rugby. Why wouldn't it be a red card in rugby league? Big MG joined us on the show to discuss Origin 1. Was it a red card offence?
Well, on first viewing, Marty, I don't think it was, mate. I really don't. I'm an ex-player. I've been around the game for 50 years now. And I think I know when I see something on a footy field that's untoward and deserves a send-off. That to me last night was it was reckless and careless, but I don't think it was intentional. So I think we should have let the judiciary deal with him like they have. We're going to give him 4 weeks out of the game, but I think the game suffered last night because of it. And when you see a player like Joseph Sua'ali'i, who's only a kid himself, you know, trying to make a tackle on another kid, which is Reece Walsh. I've seen some footage this morning from another view, which Sua'ali'i, about a metre from impact, didn't have his eyes even on Reece Walsh, who had dropped about 3 or 4 inches at that time from sliding in the turf. So, yeah, it was reckless. It did hit him in the head. But if we go back to round 3 or 4 this year when Penrith played the Broncos and Taylor May clocked Reece Walsh in the jaw and broke it with a head clash, that was reckless and careless. And he didn't get sent off or sin bin. He got 1 week suspension for it. So, to answer your question, I think the game was over after 7 minutes, and the 80,000 people who bear the elements with the big losers in it, not just New South Wales.
So there's a couple of elements to this, and to me it feels a bit like the red card to Sam Cane in the Rugby World Cup final as well. How much are all of our views skewed by the fact that we all felt as soon as that happened, the game was over as a contest, and that is the most unfortunate, thing about it. I know, obviously, the most unfortunate thing is, Reece Walsh, and hopefully he's okay and all of that. But just because it destroys the contest, we're also disappointed. So therefore, is it natural to sort of skew the way of, he shouldn't have been sent off for that reason alone?
No, I think so. Yeah, I think so. As I said at the top of this chat, I think we all know when we see something that deserves a send-off. If someone walks up behind a bloke and puts one on his chin without him watching him, see you later. If someone does a high hit on the bloke and it's totally intentional, I think we all know as connoisseurs of the game when we see something like that. Last night was dramatic because it was Origin. There's a lot more eyes on the game, and I think we've got this could lead to a real change where Sua'ali'i is simmed for 10 minutes, but he stays off the whole game then. And then New South Wales maybe should be able to put a replacement player on in such a massive contest. I don't know, Marty. I don't know the answers to it, but all I know is that I watched the game at home last night. I had about 15, 20 friends and family over. We were all ready for the game, and after 7 minutes, our attention was gone. We didn't hardly watch another minute of the game. So there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way going forward where State of Origin such a monster, such a promotion that we play above the rules and outside the rules, that as soon as someone does that last night, albeit accidental, we send him off and the game's done. Queensland it's hard enough winning a game in Clubland with 12 men, let alone in State of Origin. Everyone knew the result. Everyone knew the Queensland were going to win. So, and I suppose, Marty, if you get a player, and I'm thinking on the go here, if you get a player who is a bit of a hitman and you send him out there for 10 minutes to take it out, well, that could be detrimental to the fact that what I just said. So there's pros and cons. All I know that he'll be out for 4 weeks. New South Wales got their bum smacked, and Queensland looked totally awesome in doing it.
I think personally, I probably disagree with you in that I think it's a red card. And I say that, MG, because, we watch obviously a lot of rugby here in New Zealand, and in rugby, that's an instant red. There's no debate about it. There's no question about it. And the reason that it is an instant red is because they say that the duty of care is on the tackler, regardless of what happens to the guy he's tackling, whether he slips or whatever, that it's your shoulder that hits his head and you're responsible. And that's because of the class actions, the CTE, the fact that 400 players in England are going to sue the sport. And so I tend to lean towards that, because I keep thinking, when is rugby league going to catch up with this? And it's only when a class action happens. So, but at the same time, I share your disappointment. I was like you, so looking forward to this game. And then after 7 minutes, you're not going to win that game with 12 against 13. It was the same as the World Cup final for the All Blacks. As good as we might have been in the second half, with Sam Cane off, you're not going to beat the bloody Springboks with 14 players. No. So for us fans, it's natural for us to go, oh, God, there's got to be a better way.
And I think the emotion of the night as well, it's a very emotive subject. We're talking about the first time that someone has been sent off the quickest sent off in the history of the State of Origin, which has been going around since 1980. And we've never seen something like this happen before. So it's all new to everybody. So everyone's going to come up with different ways and angles to try and talk around it and try and change things. But I'll get your point. At the end of the day, the duty of care is with the defender to try and but then we want consistency in the game, because as I just spoke about, Reece Walsh broke his jaw round 3 and from a head clash, and we saw nothing in it. Accidents are going to happen. Last night wasn't an accident. It was reckless and careless, but it was no intent. And so I think it depends who you speak to. If you speak to New South Welshman, everyone's going to tell you that it was a sin bin. If you speak to Queenslanders, they're going to tell you it was a send-off. And I think most Kiwis are Queensland supporters. So,
apart from me, mate. So, I
get it, but I honestly get it. If that was if my son, who's now played a few first grade games, was Reece Walsh last night, I'd want that player sent off. So That's, it depends what type of mood and what camp you're in.
Exactly right.
All I know is that the CTE shit is real, and I've got a lot of good mates who I played with and against who are going through it right now, mate. And I know it's real, and I want to do everything in our game to get rid of it. And if it's making a stance in Origin, well, so be it.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell reminds us, on to the next topic that we go. Post-Origin, the red card, Lachlan, of course. T20 Cricket World Cup, I'm going to give you an update. French Open. There I was yesterday saying that those who do the seedings, especially for the women's draw, must have been wrapped because 1, 2, 3, 4 were all there. Well, 2 and 4 both got knocked out. Also, you can call Alcaraz versus Sinner. That semi-final on Friday. God, that's going to go for a month, that one, and it'll be 6 or 7 hours worth of tennis. Mavs versus Celtics. Who you got? Because we're going to be talking to Ian Thompson, who wrote The Soul of Basketball, very shortly about that. Kicking it with Origin, though, before we get into Cory. We spent an hour talking about the red card, Lachlan. I don't want to go over same old ground again, but I don't know what else there is to say about that first state of Origin. Because, the thing I love about Origin more than anything is probably the build-up more than the match most times. I just love the idea, the anticipation of it, especially being a loser who supports the Bluesers. And in the last 15 or 16 or 18 years, we've won it about 4 times. You're going to come up with a stat in a couple of seconds now to tell me that there is no hope at all for New South Wales to come back from a match down here. It feels like such a shame. Look, I will maintain that Joseph Sua'ali'i, you're an idiot. And doing that and thinking you could get away with it, well, obviously you weren't thinking. And you wrecked a good game. And the consequence of, as I said in the last hour, you could cost the coach's job ultimately. Because if they don't win this year, New South Wales, and they lose next year, he'll be sacked after 2 years. And he can probably go back and point on a damn good team. We were ready to go in game 1, and we played 73 bloody minutes with 12 men, mate, because of you. So, it's not as easy just to wash it under the carpet and go, I'm going to apologise to Reece Walsh, mate. At the same time, without wanting to carpet the player completely, both codes, rugby and league, are now in a situation where I think because, Lachlan, they keep talking about how this is entertainment, right? And this is a spectacle. And because they keep ramming that down our throats, we have a right to demand the entertainment spectacle side of it. And when games get reduced to 12 playing 13 or 14 playing 15, it does wreck it as a contest. So, it's like the administrators, the last thing you want is to indulge in these conversations where how the hell do we actually rewrite these rules? But it's almost like you're asking us to do that anyway because, when somebody gets sent off, even though it might be legitimate, that's the contest. That's the end of the game.
I find it amusing how a lot of fans who don't think it should have been a sending off will sit there and say the refs have ruined the contest. It's always the refs who ruin it. There's never any blame put on the players. What about the player who flew out of the line? Go back and watch the footage.
He did not for a second even give us stuff where Reece Walsh was, where his head was, what was happening. He aimed like a bomb.
It was calculated. It was calculated. The moment Tom Dearden passes it out to Walsh, you can see Sua'ali'i hesitating. The moment he sees Walsh get the ball, he flies right at him, head and shoulder first. There's a slight argument, sure, that Reece Walsh drops a little bit. Reece Walsh doesn't totally slip over and he falls down a good 4, 5, 6 inches. He goes down slightly, but he goes down the same way that anyone will go down when they're running. When you're running, you're not running upright.
No, you don't run upright.
You don't run upright.
No one runs
You're
upright.
crouching down.
That's right.
Especially when you're passing, because that helps steady your body and get some power behind the pass. So the argument that Sua'ali'i would have got on his chest no, he wouldn't have. He probably would have still clocked his chin and broken his jaw, maybe. So
do you know what? I think the best way to explain it is this, and we all do this. And every time we do that, and every time I do, I swear I'm never going to do it again. But you're driving towards the traffic lights. You're doing maybe 55, and you're running late. That light hits orange. And you're just a fraction late on it, but you floor it a little bit. You might get up to 58 to 60k or something, and you get through the light as it goes orange to red, right?
Yeah.
And you get away with it.
Yeah.
But if some other clown is coming the other way, as people do, and they're looking at the lights going red, watching it go green, and then they're going, I've got a green light and floor it, and all of a sudden you hit them and smash into them or something like that.
Well, no, what it is it's like you're going through an orange light. Yeah, getting through it, but then there's a traffic jam in front of you, and then you're having to brake and maybe even swerve out of the way so you don't hit a car.
So that's the consequence.
That's essentially it. It's risky.
Yeah, that's it. You've chosen that risk, and that's what Sua'ali'i did. He chose that risk, and this is the consequence of what he chose.
You know, I got it. I love to surf the Twitterverse or the Xverse, I guess it's called now, when things like this happened, and I was sort of debating with a lot of people. People said, "Oh, there was no intention. You can't say he intended to do it." It's not about that he intended to hurt Reece Walsh.
I didn't intend to have a crash when I crashed the orange light, did I?
But he intended to go in there with force in his shoulder and his head in the way he was tackling upright,
Exactly right.
which then causes danger. That responsibility is
his.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We're thinking about this with a rugby brain. They talk about this in rugby. The responsibility of safety is on the tackler. You know, it doesn't really matter what the intention was. If it was a dangerous act, he's sent off. They don't talk about this much in league. League is catching up to rugby, and as much as we sit there and we give rugby a hard time about its confusing rules, they at least are doing at its core the right thing with head knocks and whatnot.
100%.
And we now have gotten to a point where what Sam Cane did in the World Cup final. Yeah, we've got to get used to the fact that's a record. Just quickly, you said I had some stats. I do have some stats. In the last 20 State of Origin series, 14 out of the last 20 have been won by the game one winner. So only 6 times the team has lost game one
Lord, mate,
and not won the series.
God, give me hope.
And for any stats lovers, out of those 6 teams who have lost game one but still managed to win the series, 4 times it's been Queensland. Which means that 4 times New South Wales in the last 20 years have actually won game one and lost the series. And if you want to go back to the turn of the century, 17 of the last 24 to have won game one win the series. Now, I'm being a bit harsh there because one of those series where the game one winner didn't win the series was a draw. So, point is, if you lose game one, you're not going to win the series.
You lose game one, you're done. T20 World Cup. Oman. Chasing 164 to 165 to win. They've just lost their second wicket. Let's move on. Papua New Guinea.
That's a commentator's curse, isn't it?
70,
Oh my gosh.
Papua New Guinea setting 77, Uganda 72 for 6. God, I mean, Doull must be tearing his hair out here. He'll join us in about 20 minutes or so once the post-match preparation or post-match celebrations, whatever it goes on. Just in terms of these teams, we spoke a little bit about this yesterday. Your Nepals, your Papua New Guineas, your Uganda, your Namibias, your Omans, USA, Canada. You okay with this? I'm okay with this. The competition in the tournament starts proper when the Super 8 starts, right? That's when, that's when you're going to get the best teams. And so in each one of those groups, it's like, look, what Cricket League and rugby all do is they are desperate to have a World Cup. But the reality is they don't have enough teams to compete at the highest level. So at the Rugby World Cup in Paris last year, we saw some big blowout scores of 80s, 100s, 90s, 70s. That's where we're at as far as the T20 World Cup goes at the moment. New Zealand's first game is against Afghanistan.
Now, I've just got a quick issue. There's this Super 8 stage where the top 8 teams go through to this next sort of group.
It's just a money spinner, mate.
They didn't have this at the last one, did they?
No, they've had it before, though.
They have had it before, so they keep changing the tournament structure.
Of course, yeah.
Why?
Well, because they want to introduce more teams, because more teams means more...
No, but why can't they just have the... Well, why did they get rid of it last time then? In 2021, when they had it in Abu Dhabi, which I think might have been delayed by a year, and then when they had it in 2022 in Australia, both times it was just the semi-final. The top 2 teams in each group went into the semis. Why didn't they just keep the Super 8 for those ones?
No, it's greed, mate. Because they want the more eyeballs on. They're trying to actually get the Middle East to be watching this, okay? Because
well, then wouldn't you find a new structure and then maintain that as opposed to chopping and changing?
Hey, they're breaking into Canada and the United States. It's going to take over from baseball.
There's just no logic.
Darren Baisley. Let's talk about the All Whites. I'll give you a list of names. Bell, Garbett, Marco Stamanic, and Sarpreet. All 4 of these guys have withdrawn or are not available for the All Whites to play the Oceania Nations Cup. This is Darren Baisley, the coach. I'm reading from the comments he made yesterday. Oh, they've got club commitments. Some of our potential players are still mid-season. Some are coming off the back of long European seasons. Some are in various personal or contract situations.
Well, those 4 you listed, those 4, the predominant reason amongst those 4 and a couple of others, I think, is workload management.
No, mate, okay, a couple of things. Most of these guys don't play. They're bench warmers is what they are. Plus also, their seasons have finished. So you're telling me that all of those guys that have just played the Champions League final for Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund have played a season of Bundesliga, a season of La Liga, a season of Premier League, then they play the Champions League. Now they're off to play the Euros. What, they don't have long seasons? They're not tired?
Being the devil's advocate,
this is BS,
Hold
mate.
up, first, I agree with you, but to be the devil's advocate for a second, Joe Bell's season in Norway is still running, but they have a month off during the. They are off from the 3rd of June till the 1st of July.
This is called a FIFA window.
I know. And
so there are no games.
So there's a guy called Nando Panenka, I think is how you say his name, sorry. Michael Box are both defenders who are in the MLS season.
Yeah, it's
now
called
those three, I can kind of.
No, the season gets press pause. Okay,
so is the MLS paused right now?
It's paused. Everything pauses because of the FIFA window.
The other three guys, though, Sarpreet Singh, Matt Garbutt,
there's no excuse
Marco
for these guys not to
three
play.
of our key midfielders.
Yeah.
Your seasons are done. You all play in the European League season that's just finished.
They barely play. That's the truth.
Well, no. Hold up. Some of them do. Okay, some of them, like the last time out, Joe Bell started for Viking, whoever he plays for. Marco Stamenic plays quite a few games.
Bell's on the bench, mate. He started
the last game. You don't watch him much.
I follow this guy because I despise him as the New Zealand captain because he's the guy that took us off the field for that bogus racism thing. Okay, against Qatar.
The point is, I agree with you for the most part. These are stupid reasons from the majority of these players who have no reason to not be playing for their country.
No, they don't.
Because the desire to play for the country is not there.
Well, where are the football journalists or reporters challenging Darren Baisley on this? Darren, that's rubbish, mate. There's no seasons going on at the moment because when you play internationals, the FIFA window says if you don't turn up for your country, you can't play for a club anyway. There's no leagues going on. What do you mean they've got personal or contract situations? That doesn't prevent you from playing, does it? Well, what's a personal situation?
But what does it mean?
What does it mean? What, has somebody died in the family or something? Okay, we've got sympathy for that, but what else is it? Chris Wood's getting married. Okay, I understand that, sure.
So Tommy Smith is his best man, and he's, after the wedding, joining the camp partway through this
Chris isn't because he's going off on a honeymoon. I mean, what really are the reasons, Darren? Club commitments, the back of long European seasons. This is just bogus hogwash is what it is. I tell you what, if this was a World Cup tournament or whatever, these players would be there with knobs on, wouldn't they? You couldn't keep them away from playing these games. This is a bit like New Zealand cricket and these guys arriving late in the Caribbean. If you don't want to play for your country, F off. That's it. Oh, no, this is where player power has just overtaken so many New Zealand sports. I think Darren Baisley is as weak as, and I think these excuses are as weak as. French Open quickly. Who wins out of Alcaraz Sinner? Who wins out of Ruud and your man Zverev?
Zverev.
I can't pronounce it, mate. I'm giving up. Who wins the men's from here?
Zverev probably wins that semi. And I don't know. I would just imagine that Alcaraz has a better chance because I think his style surely suits Clay more so than Sinners. But I don't know.
Well, they both grew up on Clay.
Yeah. I really don't know. I have no idea.
Who wins the women's?
Swiatek.
Yeah, she has to, doesn't she?
Well, she always wins it.
Mavs versus Celtics. We're going to go to the break and we're going to be talking about this. Our man Ian Thompson, soul of basketball, NBA and ESPN writer for many years, going to join us, preview the finals. Who you got game one tomorrow, 12:30?
Game one or the series?
Game one.
Probably Boston. They've had more time off.
You think the Mavs can split?
Yeah, probably. They've actually got into a habit of winning a lot of road games.
Exactly right.
The playoffs. I think it's really interesting, though. I think people are going to really lose their heads over how good Boston are, the numbers and whatnot. I think they've got the fourth best points difference in the history of the NBA for a single season team. So many wins ahead of everyone else in the East, blowing teams off the park or off the court, if you will. This is also a team that gets lost sometimes on offense. They just settle for jacking up threes, and when they're in tight games late on, they do stutter a bit, if you will. Whereas the Mavs are the opposite in the fourth quarter. They actually tend to really stretch their legs. Very much did that against Minnesota. I also don't know who the hell on Boston is going to guard Luka Doncic. They'll put one of Drew Holiday or Derek Wright on Kyrie Irving, and Drew Holiday will be able to limit him, but won't really be able to stop him. But are you going to put Jason Tatum on?
Well, I'm going to ask Ian pretty shortly about it.
And if you do that, then that puts more workload offensively on Jaylen Brown. Do you trust Jaylen Brown to be able to lead your team on the offensive side of the ball in a finals series? I don't. So I'd lean towards the Mets winning the series.
Are either of these two teams, I'll ask Ian this as well, are either of these two teams worthy winners?
Yes, because they're in the finals. Absolutely.
Devlin.
Greg Martin joins us every single Thursday on the program. Triple M Breakfast host, former Wallaby fullback. He does a men's radio show, targeting men, talking about men's things. And you know what? It's crazily successful. It's the number one rating show in Brisbane. Wow. Oh, my God. The marketing departments of all the advertising agencies and PR fluffers around the country in New Zealand go, what? What? Men? What? They're in the marketplace? They spend money? They're worth advertising at? Yeah, I know. Amazing, isn't it, eh? You learn something new every day. Greg Martin, ladies and gentlemen, on the platform. You don't care that we were down to 12, do you?
We barely spoken about it this morning. We highlighted the issue, but didn't think it had any bearing on the game whatsoever.
So is that how people in Queensland deal with this? Do they? They go, well, whatever. We won 38-10. Keep talking about it. We don't care.
Look at the scoreboard, mate. Once again, 38-10. Incredible victory for those wonderful Queenslanders. You should see how happy everyone is in Brisbane today, the ones who aren't hungover. How good was it? How good was it? Now, listen, do you know that 5 of the Queenslanders are born in New Zealand? So, therefore, we are actually representative of your whole nation, the Queensland state. So, I don't know what you're doing being a blueser, but get on board, mate.
A blueser? Good God, I haven't... Oh, that's nasty, isn't it? So, does it really mean that much? Like, you can actually tell... Okay. There's a skip in the stride of Queenslanders.
Do you know the whole story? Do you want me to bore you in 30 seconds?
No, just about how you're downtrodden in New South Wales and they never liked you and they were the bullies and the big brothers, mate. Just we'll keep weeping.
No, listen, they're all weasel words. The reality was, before 1980, we used to all our best players would go to New South Wales because they had those pokey machines. They had all the money. So all our players would go down there. And then Queensland would play New South Wales and they'd pick all the Queenslanders. And that's why Origin started. So shove that up.
Yeah. All right. Week 2, no Mrs. Marto. So last week you spent 4 or 5 days in the pub and you were filming yourself eating kebabs. So week 2, what's happened?
All right. We had sausages, onion on bread 4 days in a row, and I spoke about it on radio. And all of a sudden, people dropped food into
Here we go.
into the radio station. It's been great. So I've got about another 3 meals to go. These lovely people, I don't know if they've inserted drugs or anything in their food, but it doesn't matter. I don't have to cook. So we were both the other night when my wife FaceTimed to see how my son and I were, because he's living with me at the moment. We're doing some carpentry together. We were both doing our toenails with our feet on the dining room table.
Oh, there you go. God, that's bliss. That's just man heaven. That's just right, isn't it? I mean, and also you could just see that one of you's in the underpants. You could obviously tell if she paused the thing and then obviously went in there and tried to look for detail in the photo. There's things in that room. There's dishes. There's washing that normally wouldn't be there. She knows that, right?
All right. Also on the dining room table was a planer, a cordless planer. We were fixing the blades. We've got tools. We've got everything but a motorbike inside the house at the moment. It's unreal. God,
that's fantastic. Yeah. Your Reds are away the Chiefs, mate. Now, this time last year, same game, and you'd beaten them in New Plymouth and took them really close. I know you beat them in round 4 this year, but I think out of the 4 quarterfinals, this is the only one I can see an upset, unless you're going to argue with me that the Brumbies could lose.
No, Brumbies won't lose. No, they're at home, mate. It's hard. Yeah, it's freezing. Oh, I suppose you guys are used to the freezing cold. You don't beat the Brumbies at home, I don't. So the Reds are the chance. I think we've beaten you 3 out of the last 5 games, Reds versus the Chiefs. So we've got something on you. And, of course, we've got Tom Liner at 5'8". He's incredible in terms of what wins semis, quarters. You've got to make sure you kick your goals, and he's the best we've got. He's better than his old man, Tom Liner, our 5'8". So
wow.
The Reds are pretty confident, mate, and they're actually looking all right at the moment.
That's high praise, mate. That's high praise, because Noddy was a hell of a player. You know, I mean, people of the younger generations don't really understand how good that Aussie side was back in the late 80s, early 90s, and then, of course, came again in 98, 99. But Noddy was a fantastic player, mate.
Yeah, mate, and I watched him grow up because we're pretty much best mates. He was one of my groomsmen at my wedding stuff. So we watched how each other's kids grow up. I can remember he's got 3 sons. Of course, one of them plays for Italy now, was in the English squad, but then went to Italy. He's got this one, and he's got another 3 little boys, and they all had his coolness. Like, they've all developed his psychology. So, good young fella, and keeping the family name going. Better than what I can say for my son. He just surfs.
Rugby this weekend, Super Rugby quarterfinals. Apart from the Chiefs versus the Reds, are there really any chances of an upset here? Number 1 Hurricanes playing number 8 Rebels? Well, we put that question to Cory Jane, assistant coach of the Canes. This game against the Rebels, the 8th, of course, they disband if they lose. That's the last game that they play. I know that from this side of the microphone, it's easy to say, oh, God, this is a gimme game. I mean, you guys are going to win this easy. But you can't consider it like that at all, can you?
No, I think the coolest thing for us, and we've got a different group of men playing some decent rugby this year, and
pretty decent, mate. Yeah.
But we haven't made it past the quarterfinals in the last couple of years, and admittedly we played away the last couple in Canberra, but we still got knocked out. So it's a good challenge for us to try to take it a step further. And then you look at the Rebels; they've got a man playing 100 super, 50 supers. They're no longer next year, so there'll be guys that are still probably pissed off that the Rebels are gone and potentially some of their contracts, because they probably had a contract next year.
Sure.
And so guys will be looking for that to keep playing well in this, to get deep in the playoffs and try to put their name forward for contracts somewhere else. And then they'll be telling themselves, we get to go and try to keep this Rebels together again for another week. And how cool would that be if, imagine getting kicked out of the competition and they win the Super Rugby.
Good guy. So, yeah. Plenty of motivation.
Oh, absolutely. So they'll be challenging themselves in that area, and we know that, hey, it's big for us, but it's also they're coming to do that. So, we've got to perform well.
Cory, I love the fact that you're reminding us all also of you got a team that hasn't won this. I mean, won it in 2016 it was, haven't won it. That's the only one. And you've got a group of young players that have everything to prove. So I'm sort of thinking tapping into that excitement must be a real buzz at the moment.
Yeah, like I said, there's only a TJ and Shieldsy and a couple of us old fellas that have been around back in 16, and half of the guys, if they weren't playing with TJ and Shieldsy, they don't know who I am in our squad. So it was that long ago. So, there's a good group, and a lot of them were here the last couple of years, and we fell short. But the vibe and the way that we're playing, the way we're training, the way we actually hang out with each other off the field has just been next level this year. And I think a lot of them, they've trained well this week in a sense that, it's a quarterfinal and you don't perform well, you get knocked out. But they look excited to go and challenge it this weekend, which is awesome.
Tell us about Ruben Love, mate. He's gone from strength to strength. I'd love to see that guy get an opportunity this year under Razor. I don't know whether it's the end of year 2 or not, but he played in your position. How much time do you spend with him?
Yeah, we have some good chats. I think I do with the outsides in general. But he's playing. And last couple of years he's had a couple of niggles and wasn't being able to play a lot of rugby. And now he's playing rugby. And he's enjoying himself and he's looking sharp. And we've had little discussions about certain things from fullback when he's running and what scenarios he can use his footwork and stuff like that and what to look for. And he's someone that wants it, and he puts the work into to try to get to where he wants to go. And obviously All Blacks is, the pinnacle, and no doubt he wants to get there. He said it. So our job is to continue building him and making him play well for us and update his resume when it comes to the skill set.
Sure.
So that the All Blacks have to pick him. And I think his name will be right in the
mix.
They had at the moment. So, but they will start looking at All Blacks in these last few weeks. When you start getting those New Zealand games or into the playoffs, they start seeing what you're made about when the pressure's on. So
good challenge for him.
Well, you've been at the very highest level. You played these games, the most important games that you can as an All Black, which are World Cup semi-finals, finals, knockout games where the whole country is demanding that you win. So what do you bring in terms of that kind of knowledge to these guys to say to them that haven't been in this position before? That this is 80 minutes. You go home at the end of this. So what you've got to do, I suppose, is combine the freedom that you've played with and all the excitement in that, but also with the control, knowing that there is such a consequence.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about getting the preparation right off the field during the week, not from the game, but on the training paddock, off the field when you go home doing your homework. The more you can get across your detail, what you're supposed to do, what the team's focus is, when you get to a game, and especially big games, when challenges get thrown at you, you can deal with them. But if you're having to deal with your preparation and you didn't quite know moves or what you're supposed to be doing, and you're thinking about that, and then different challenges get thrown at you, you can get overwhelmed. And it's the last thing you really want to do when you look at playoffs. The field shrinks. The mistakes.
Wow.
You make mistakes.
Great way of putting it.
You normally get punished for mistakes, and those big moments, which are hard to know in game, can come and kick in the booty. So, you don't have to go out there and try to chase bonus points, but you want to go out there and play well, control the game, not make too many mistakes that you can't get your game going and frustrate yourself. So I just think that if we can get the week right, and the boys can still go out there and enjoy themselves and not get kind of caught up in the moment where you start playing within yourself, because if we do that as a squad and we start playing some average rugby because we're too scared to take our chances, could quite well get rolled.
I just want to finish on TJ, because you mentioned him before. He had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, mate. Look, and I got to be honest. When he came back, I was thinking, oh God, is he going to be back in the All Blacks? Is he going to be fast enough? Is he going to be sharp enough? Well, I've been made to eat my words happily. So he's had an amazing season. But just when you look at that guy, Cory, I mean, what he's gone through, all the injuries he's gone through, the fact he's doing what he's doing at this age, the fact his desire is still there, that, he comes in, apparently he's one of the first to arrive in that. How inspiring has it been, and how much of an influence is he on that team?
Mate, unreal. And I had to get up and present his 150th that he got ages ago when he played, but he didn't want to get his ring until he had made himself back after his Achilles. And I called him my Kobe Bryant, because when you look at the most competitive person, challenging people around him, but also challenging himself, that's it to me. I don't think I've met another person in rugby that's like him. And you're right, apart from us coaches, he's the first player in the building, challenges us to get in there at the same time and working at his skill. So he's played 80-odd test matches, 70-odd, what has he played? 60-something games for the Canes, and he's the first one in working at his skill, which tells me he wants to get better. One of his calves are as big as my forearm, the one is his Achilles, which is... And you look at it, you think, Jesus, how are you still running, son? But he just doesn't stop, and that's credit to how hard he works, credit to the man, and also, talk about that skill, wants to get better. So, mate, being out for Achilles for that long, not knowing if you're coming back at that age, and being one of the best players for us, man, he's going to help us in this playoff role.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. The T20 World Cup, meandering along in the first week, and that is because there's a whole lot of teams there that you think, what? Do they play cricket? Yeah, they do. I'm talking about Oman. I'm talking about PNG. I'm talking about Uganda. I'm talking about Nepal, Namibia. Oh, they're valid teams because they have qualified for the tournament. Simon Doull is there in the West Indies, and he was calling today PNG versus Uganda. PNG setting the grand total of 77, and Uganda chasing it down, losing 3 wickets with 10 balls remaining. Good God, mate.
Crazy evening to you, Marty, from Guyana. Afternoon in New Zealand. But yeah, look, a good, tight, low-scoring contest, I guess, is what you would say about it. Papua New Guinea would have come into the game thinking that they were probably favoured, having put up a really good showing against the West Indies, and Uganda got humbled, really, by Afghanistan the other day. So I guess we probably expected it to go Papua New Guinea's way, but Uganda found a way to bowl brilliantly, restrict them to just 77 and then sort of scraped home.
It's not the first time so far in the tournament we've had these scores. Sri Lanka 77, South Africa 80 for 4. And several complaints as well about the pitches in New York. Ireland 96, India 97 for 2. That one was actually called dangerous.
Yeah, it's not been good, I will say. And you know what it's like with these drop-in surfaces. They take quite a long time. I think if we look at the Eden Park scenario, when you talk, I mean, I haven't been home for a few years, but when you talk to those guys at Eden Park, they still talked 2 or 3 years ago that their best pitch was one of the earliest ones they prepared, one of the earliest ones that was bedded into the trays. And it was the one they rolled out when they wanted a really good batting surface. And they just take time. And to be able to do it inside of, 6 months to a year was just always going to be incredibly difficult. And balls are flying through the top. It's not a good look. Some of the surfaces in the Caribbean have been below par. This one here in Guyana is a really tricky pitch. It hasn't produced a lot of great cricket. I don't mind the bowlers and the ball being in the game a bit more. I don't want it to be a batter-dominated game, but you want just a good surface that has a little bit for everybody. We haven't quite seen that yet. So I think the ICC are a little bit worried about what's happening, particularly in New York.
Some of these players, Papua New Guinea, Uganda, I was saying yesterday, look, I celebrate this. To me, it's a bit like the rugby sevens, mate, that the only way you actually develop the game, you're not going to get a lot of countries playing 15s up to a level, and you're not going to get any of these sides playing test cricket. That's not the point, is it? The point is actually just to get them playing cricket, like you Uganders and so forth.
This is the growth of the game, Marty. For me, this is the tournament that they should be targeting. I think even up to 24 teams in the future. If you want to grow the game globally, 2020 cricket is the way to do it, whether it be women's or men's cricket. And I have no problem with a T20 World Cup being as far spread as can possibly be. And then I would like the Champions Trophies and the 50-over World Cup to be really limited to 10 teams at the most. And that becomes the pinnacle of where you're trying to get to. But this is the growth of the game. And you see tonight, Carlos Brathwaite and myself sort of stood on the field for about 20 minutes talking to the Uganda players afterwards, just giving a bit of our experience. And he was talking from a Caribbean point of view about what to expect and those sorts of things. And they were just there soaking it up. And you understand what it is like from their point of view to be involved in a World Cup, the journey they've come on, the places that some of these guys have been and sort of grown up in are very foreign to a lot of people in the sort of highfalutin test-playing nations, the
Sure.
New Zealands, the Australians, the Englands, the Indias. So they are great stories. I love the fact that they are involved in this tournament. And for me, this is the greatest place to grow the game globally. And yes, you will see some one-sided fixtures, but they're not going to get any better if they never play. Uganda's game the other night, the game against Afghanistan, was the first time they'd ever played under lights.
Australia against Oman. There was a little moment there where the Aussies were struggling, and I think we were all loving that. Just in terms of overall, I mean, this is what happens at the bed-in time, I call it. Look, the Rugby World Cup, the Rugby League World Cup, the cricket, everything else. The first couple of weeks is just a kind of feeling period, isn't it? Can you see any real upsets? Like if I go through these groups with you, mate, and I go India, USA, Canada, Ireland, Pakistan, is it going to be India, Pakistan? If I go Afghanistan, Windies, PNG, Uganda, New Zealand, is it going to be us and the Windies, or maybe us and Afghanistan that go through? Is there going to be a monumental upset amongst any of these games to start with?
I can't see an upset as far as getting through to the Super 8s is concerned. You think the usual suspects will probably get through. New Zealand have probably got the toughest group, and they play Afghanistan on this very surface that we've seen here in Guyana. It looks a tough pitch. It really does. It brings Afghanistan right into play. It'll be very interesting, New Zealand's selection policy. The West Indies can bludgeon anyone in any given game. So if you get the West Indies on a day where, Nicholas Pooran has a day out, Johnson Charles has a day out, Russell does something special, they've got the players that can take the game away from you in a hurry. So New Zealand's group, for me, is probably the toughest group, particularly from what I've seen from the pitches that they're going to play on. So, that one seems very difficult. The others, look, I mean, Scotland look at a decent side. They put up a very good performance in that rain-affected game that got washed out in the end against England and Barbados. They're a good side. They have overtaken Ireland, from a cricketing point of view, I think, in the last couple of years. So, and part of the issue with that is that Ireland have got test status, and it's kind of set them backwards. Test status comes with money. It comes with funding from the ICC. But what it did do is it took all of their players out of the English county system, which they were playing in a lot, and they no longer could play as local players. So therefore, they lost a lot of that county experience, and it's actually been detrimental to Irish cricket. So, look, Scotland could upset someone. Netherlands are a possibility to upset someone, but I'd see the usual suspects going through. It's just New Zealand's group that's going to be a little bit dicey.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.